we will be getting into our next panel, which is topics as lobbying for the right cause. Let me, in the paucity of time, let me very quickly welcome in the panelists and straight away get going with it. To begin with, let me welcome on stage Mr. Anuraag Saxena, who's the founder of the India Pride Project, an activist, an advocacy expert, and a commentator here with us. Congratulations and thank you for joining in, sir. Let me also welcome in Ratan Sharda, historian, writer, British Academy postdoctoral fellow, Institute of Commonwealth Studies, University of London. Thank you for gracing us with your presence here. Let me welcome in, you met her earlier as well, one of the most successful fashion designers in the country today, Ms. Shaina NC. Let me also welcome in Mr. R. Jagannathan, who's a journalist with over 43 years of experience in business and general journalism. He's been awarded the Sri Ram Sanlam Lifetime Achievement Award in 2016 as well. Welcome, sir. And once again, to moderate the session, let's welcome in Ms. Shubhrastha, who's a writer and has also been an ex-political campaign consultant with the BJP. Welcome in, ma'am. So, over to you straight away. Please go ahead.
Thank you, organizers. I know we have very little time now, so we'll quickly get into the thick of things. Shaina ma'am, what do you think about lobbying, advocacy for the right cause? Do you think BJP has a view on lobbying at all? Let me just get to the politics of lobbying.
So for starters, in a democracy as large as ours, on any issue, be it social or political, you're bound to have contrarian opinions. You will have a strong right-wing, so to say, viewpoint on a particular issue, and you will have the absolute contrarian. Now, it could be on issues such as abortion. I know you want me to come to the Shaheen Bagh, but I'll come to that at the end. But agitation, protests, absolutely welcome. Contrarian, legitimate voices of dissent, absolutely welcome. Criticizing the government, absolutely welcome. But what is not welcome in this garb of lobbying or protesting, and when I say lobbying, it could be for a social cause, protesting could be for something like a CAA, which you haven't even understood. You cannot fall into the trap of certain people who have vendetta politics as a mission or who are interested in vote bank politics. You cannot fall into the trap of those who believe that being anti-national is cool or to be noticed making sensational commentary. So the BJP is very clear. It could be advocacy, it could be lobbying on certain issues which you want us to take on. I, for one, am lobbying in my own party for 33% reservation. It's very welcome for me to speak, even though my leadership may feel that this is not the opportune time. But I can be a legitimate voice of dissent within an organization as well. On the other hand, you have political issues like CAA, which need to be dealt with by understanding what is the issue. What are you agitating about? Are you falling into a trap because it turns into some kind of livelihood for you where you're being paid X amount to sit there and just say, hum iske khilaf hai, hum iske khilaf hai. What are you khilaf of?
Anuraag ji, your India Pride Project, and I'm saying your India Pride Project because you have been at the helm of really stirring this project. It's a very interesting project because it has cross-party support. It's also interesting because when we keep talking about the ecosystem, I think the leftist ecosystem, the doyens of the leftist ecosystem, the New York Times and the Washington Post of the world, BBC, has really supported your cause and written extensively about it. Do you think this is a model that can be applied to other social issues, other cultural issues?
Well, clearly, yes. If the model exists, it can be applied across a cross-section of use cases, so to speak. I'm proud of the Washington Post and BBCs, but I'm prouder of Jaggiji sitting here. I mean, we've had Swarajya support from day one when nobody cared about us. And Panchajanya and Organizer and our True Blue Indic platforms. But more importantly, look, I think lobbying is somehow, there's a false equivalence, false conflation that lobbying is a bad word. If you look at the kind of causes we all care about, there is an element of advocacy that is needed. There is an element of consensus building that is needed. Every special interest needs representation in parliament and through the legislative process. Unfortunately, when I see a lot of self-proclaimed activists, even on our side, I mean, you look at Modi ji, I think he represents a new India, you know, an India that's more self-assured, an India that's more confident and all of that. I somehow don't see that percolating downwards towards people like us. I mean, it could be, you know, it could be the right to education issue, it could be the relocation of Kashmiri Pandits, what have you. So I think we collectively need to get out of the whole kind of lost glory and victimhood narrative. Okay, we know what the Mughals did, what the British did, and then what Nehru did, and, you know, Falana Dhimka. The question is, what are we doing about things that we care about? You know, the key thing is, what are we doing? Not what are we saying, what are we outraging, what are we tweeting? And I do think that with time, I hope we develop a strong, credible force, a process, rather than ad hoc spurts, of moving our agenda. We have done it for judicial processes, as an example, you know, Sabrimala, Ram Janmabhoomi, what have you. We've not done it for legislative processes, and I do hope that comes through. And yeah, I'm glad that Shashi Tharoor or Murli Manohar from a G or whoever stands up and says we're doing good work. I think that's the kind of acceptance we need to build for our agenda.
Jagannathan ji, do you agree with what Anuraag ji said? Do you agree that on all issues, for example, the RTE, and I think the most vocal criticism of the current government has been on RTE. Do you see lobbying would take us a little closer towards achieving what we all are advocating for?
Yeah, I think many people do not understand the issues, including people in government, and it's not just the RTE. I mean, I'll take 3 examples. Say CAA. For 70 years, we've been in denial that minorities in 3 neighboring countries have been persecuted. So when you finally bring this law, people think it's about discriminating against our minority and not about giving space to the actually persecuted minorities. We didn't lobby for 70 years. We kept quiet, thinking that our minorities will be upset if we told them about the persecution of other minorities in the 3 countries. We didn't spread this word. So that is why you're seeing a widespread protest in certain communities because of that. When it comes to RT and also, let's say, a bigger issue of, say, freedom for Hindu temples, I think, unfortunately, the lobbying effort has to be much larger, because I think there is a political consensus in favor of both these rotten ideas. Because I think when it comes to temples, all politicians, whether Hindu or whatever, they are happy to put their hand in the temple funds and do whatever they want with it. So there is a consensus again. So you need to build a broader consensus among all political parties and not just one, that look, you need to free the temples from government control. When it comes to RTE, the same, it's been sold as though it's going to make huge differences to educational outcomes, when the burden of running RTE falls largely on one majority community. So we have not told the people this. We have given specific exclusions to certain communities by actually amending the constitution, and we have not explained these points properly. So I think we need to take a wider platform, go across parties and tell them that, look, these things are really doing damage and you need to do. I think it is going to take several years, because all parties seem to be sold on these bad ideas, but we need to start the process.
Can we get Ratan ji in? So, Ratan ji, as somebody who has been a part of the Sangh ecosystem, as a Swayam Sevak, or as a representative of the Swayam Sevak, what do you think RS's view might be on lobbying? It's a socio-cultural organization, and I'm sure most of the voices for causes come from socio-cultural issues.
First of all, lobbying is not political. I belong to an organization called RSS, which has been lobbying for Hindu cause for 95 years. I have been a member of an organization which advocated for CAA since 1978-79, when Assam agitation took place. It has been lobbying for Hindu temples, freedom of Hindu temples for long years. So lobbying is a part of democratic process. It must be allowed. I'll come to something very fundamental. When you say right way and lobbying and put inverted commas, we are saying that what is not left is right. I belong to an organization which was always wrong because it was right. First of all, I must clarify, we must understand that there is the definition of non-left as right-wing is totally wrong. You cannot map 200-year-old definitions onto a culture which is 10,000-year-old. For example, culturally and economically, what is right-wing and left-wing? It is an economic construct. So you have free enterprise, people like Anand Ranganathan who are totally right in that sense. And there are people, if you look at Hindu ecosystem, Hindu culture is basically, in economic terms, it is more left than right. It talks of Sarve Bhavantu Sukhina. It doesn't talk of richness only for the rich. It talks about integrated humanism, where it talks of materialism not being the only thing that is required to make people happy. There is a common strain between capitalism and socialism and communism. That is the method of production. They all believe that human being is a material animal. You satisfy human needs, he is happy. So there you have, what is the difference? Ownership. So capitalism says give it to private, socialism and communism say give it to public. But basically they have the same philosophy. Where we differ is when Deen Dayal Upadhyay says that we are talking of human being who has a spiritual angle also, and we talk of the last man in the queue, we are more leftist than the rightist. So that fails. Coming to culture, a Hindu to be compared with, a Republican Hindu to be compared with the exclusivist, intolerant religions like Islam or Christianity or communism is very wrong with the Hindu people. So when you talk of a cultural issue again, you cannot put Hindu in the same bracket as intolerant, Islam and communism. So when you say right wing, we are doing injustice to the entire Hindu ecosystem and the culture of this country. So we should stop using this right wing and left wing. There is a whole rainbow of opinions. Anuraag may not be pro-BJP for all I know. Shaina may not be RSS for all I know. So there is a whole rainbow of opinions. I know Jaggi criticized RSS many times. Fine. So we are a whole rainbow of opinions. We should not be brushed into one color saying that they are right wing. Once we start doing this, lobbying will become much more effective, much more important. I will not criticize an Anuraag or a Shubhrastha for whatever view they hold, or Mr. Jaggi. So we have to work on a common thread, which is good of the country. We belong to this country. Our culture is deep-rooted. So what is the debate basically? We are saying it's a debate between two ideologies. One which says that idea of India is not yet clear. We were born on 15th August 1947 with the grace of Lord Mountbatten and Nehru Chacha. Before there was no country. Or we believe that there was a 10,000-year-old perennial civilization with a great sense of nationhood. From all those times, we belong to a nation which defined nation, Rashtra, in Rig Veda. So at least 5,000 years back. If you compare that Rashtra to 200-year-old nationalism of Nazis, that's injustice to Hindu people or to Indian people. So you must realize that we have a different idiom, we have a different culture, we have a different way of thought. Once you accept that, then every kind of lobbying is welcome and must be done. There are people lobbying for Gumnami Baba, there are people lobbying for Savarkar, there are people lobbying for RTE. So we must have a very thriving democratic system without condemning everybody, but dissent does not mean anti-national activities. I was just debating 3 days back on TV, I said when court said that we have interlocutors in Shaheen Bagh, I said, is it a contempt of court or is it dissent if I criticize the courts? So if you really believe in dissent, then contempt of court tradition should simply go away. That is my lobbying. Thank you.
Yes, Shaina, you wanted to add something.
I think just to add to what Ratanji said, the RSS believes in an ideology. It doesn't believe in propaganda. It doesn't believe in advertising what it believes in. It continues to work. Nation building will always be the mission, and that will be the agenda. When you lobby for a social cause or a political cause, whatever your choice be, and it's done world over. I don't think we need to be apologetic about it. You look at the US, you have such hardcore lobbyists for even issues such as tobacco. Now, the difference is when it comes to agitation and protests. You're well within your right in a democracy to agitate, protest, have a contrarian view to the government or an ideology. But moment you take law into your hands, you get into this anti-national competition of who's made a more stupid and more lunatic and more fanatic statement. That's where the problem starts.
I think lobbying is not about agitations. We are talking of even lobbying like what Anuraag does or what Swarajya does. So lobbying is much more deeper and not just public opinion making, but yes, we must have liberty to do all kind of lobbying.
Anuraag ji, you wanted to add something?
Can I just add on? Sorry, Jaggi ji, did you?
Sure, go ahead, go ahead.
So can I just add on? And I think it's very relevant here with a special guest who's here. I'm a tactics guy. I don't understand, stuff that is above my pay grade. We've had this debate on bhasha for a very long time. We've written articles on the resurgence of Hindi and Sanskrit and Kannada and Bhojpuri and what have you. There are lots of tweets, there are lots of fights. There's a lot of that going on. Nobody has come out with a credible alternative so far. I'd like to point out Dr. V.K. Verma and Dheera Verma, who are there on the front row right there. Couple goals Shubhrastha. You and Rajat ji have written one book. Between them, they've written a dozen. 50 plus books on Hindi. Headed the Hindi Society. Taught at the university. Created a band of 250 teachers in Hindi. I don't see why that is not part of the bhasha narrative. Why is our bhasha narrative about, "Arey, tumne aise kar diya, shame on you, you this, you that." I really think we need to mature beyond, false outrage and get on to learning templates and models from people who've actually created an army of Hindi teachers and percolated it into grassroots, Sorry, I'm being a little controversial, but...
Jagannathan ji, actually, I wanted to ask you this question. Somebody who has been in the media for the past 40 years now, why do you think lobbying comes with a certain negative connotation? And what should be done to take that connotation away from advocacy?
Actually, lobbying is the word used by people who lobby to label others as the wrong kind of lobbyists. This is what the mainstream English media does. They say anybody who stands for anything, they are the lobbyists, we are the genuine objective guys. So I have a feeling that the lobbying did not have a bad word. If it seems like as though you're doing some kind of bribery on the side or something like that. Basically with the word is advocacy. If you think something is the right thing to do, you have to go and do it. When you say lobbying, whoever is going to be a mover and shaker, you go and talk to him or her and say that, look, this is the great idea, this is what we need to do. Once they're convinced, that's what lobbying should be, and basically it means advocacy. The point is, it's like, Hinduism and Hindutva, they're the same. But in order to denigrate some kind of thinking about Hindus, you'll say that is Hindutva, this is Hindu. So lobbying and advocacy are no different. They're the same thing. You're just giving it a pejorative title.
Absolutely. I mean, just to extend to that brilliant point, lobbying was never a bad word ever. लॉबिंग को बदनाम तो ये नीरा राडिया और बरखा दत्त और जो है शेखर गुप्ता और इन लोगों ने किया है, राइट? यार मेरे घर के पास मेरी टंकी टूट जाती है तो 20 लोग जाते हैं मेयर के पास कि साहब ये टंकी रिपेयर कराओ. दैट इज ऑल्सो लॉबिंग. We need to not fall into the broad brushing and labeling that the other side pushes onto us. Exactly what Ratan ji says. I mean, there are a billion flavors between us. We need to celebrate all of them and water a bunch of plants, and that's about it.
Ratan ji, I have a question for you. There's always a risk that with a formalized form of advocacy, the corporate will have a greater influence in certain policy decisions. Do you think then the state of India that we are in, lobbying, how do we keep the corporate away from lobbying, or do you think we should just let it be?
When you say corporates, as you reminded, this Neera Radi and company. But when you talk of lobbying done by people like RSS or by Anuraag, these are not supported by any corporate. And if some corporate wants to support something like what Anuraag does, it's perfectly legitimate. So that is not the issue. Issue is that what are you lobbying for? For example, who takes the credit? That's great fun. RTI was hugely canvassed by Lok Satta, which is not a leftist Marxist organization. But who took the credit? You know, Aruna and all that company. So this kind of snatching away the credit is something which we don't really should appreciate. But I think as long as corporate has a good view of the society and they want to support good cause, why not? It is better than Ford Foundation supporting Kejriwal any day.
Shaina ji, let me make it a little provocative, and this is just as an example. If if the Jindals want to take up the India Pride project and they want to approach the BJP for certain, policy decisions, would the BJP be open to it?
First, we'll send them to Nagpur to learn about the Rashtriya Swayamsevak Sangh and corporate social responsibility without tom-tomming about what is their thought process or their agenda. If there is no hidden agenda, if there is an agenda which is, as I said, foot towards nation building or one of the 100 Seva Prakalps that the Sangh does, they're welcome. But first, that conversion and that gradual progression to understanding what a thought process and an ideology is, where a movement does not get into publicity or advertising what they're doing because their niti niyat mein koi khot nahi.
Just
So now I'm
Okay,
RSS.
Anuraag,
So I'm-
before
I'm-
you begin, we just have 10 more minutes. so
I'm
we'll
seriously
quickly wrap
offended.
up.
I'm seriously offended on the woman's planning that's happening. You're assuming that I would be okay with the Jindal support, but that's just a lighter vein.
A most stronger point. Do you assume that he is from BJP? When you say that Jindal supports him, then can Jindal support BJP?
No, just to clarify, nobody supports me. मेरे बच्चे ही मेरी बात नहीं मानते, जिंदल क्यों support
No,
करेगा?
Ratanji, it was just to say that if one corporate house decides to back him, will the BJP be okay with that kind of a tag attached to the party? Just
I
that.
wish BJP could actually force people to sponsor these kind of programs and Swaraj.
Yes.
Actually, I have a point to make about corporations. Actually, in India, we have crony corporations. In fact, they are very afraid to back a so-called right-wing publication like Swarajya. They are very happy to back left-wing publications for a very simple reason. Because left-wing publications give them protection against, let's say I back a left-wing publication, give them a lot of money, then they will stop attacking me as a corporation. Whereas they think that we anyway are in favor of private enterprise and things. So Swarajya is not going to attack corporations for doing the right thing. We'll attack them only if they are corrupt or if they are cronies. But so they don't have nothing to gain from, in fact. And they're also afraid that if a Congress come back to power and I am seen to be backing Swarajya or investing in it, then they worry that they will come after them like a ton of bricks. So we get very little corporate support. Very little. Even the few people who wanted say, keep our support silent. This is what it is.
So we are opening up the panel for questions from the audience and we'll club a few questions. Yes, please.
No, this is actually about economic policies.
Okay.
So I want to know whether RSS has any people inside the organization supporting the free enterprise. And the second question is to Jagannathan, because I read his editorials. So do we need to have the party like Swatantra, which are attached to the Indic policies and also support the policy of free enterprise?
अच्छा अनूप जी, so here is the thing. I don't know अगर आपने ये फिल्म देखी है अंदाज अपना अपना, एक पुरानी फिल्म होती थी सलमान खान एंड आमिर खान. उसमें एक सीन था where this guy played by Viju Khote goes and his boss tells him कि happy birthday Robert, and this guy says sir आपने मुझे बताया नहीं कि मेरा बर्थडे है. India is at a stage where कि अरे सर आपने मुझे बताया नहीं कि हम पावरफुल हो गए हैं. Our bureaucrats, our diplomats, people that have come in through the old construct, it will take a certain amount of time for the statesmanship of our prime minister or our home minister or whatever to flow down and percolate towards others. But believe you me, I see very specific changes that are happening within the multilateral agencies, within international conversations. You see, UN has, 203 votes. 150 votes out of those are generally, nobody cares about those votes. Once they start seeing a stronger India, a lot of them will start falling on our wayside anyways. Rest assured, there is so much more happening under Jaishankar ji right now. If you look at how we are reinforcing ourselves in Geneva and New York, some of those things are really, really shocking. If you see how we are engaging with think tanks and policy institutes outside India, I'm very positive. But yes, you're right. Historically, we've never realized that we were a civilization that deserves to play with a certain strength. Now we are doing, and it's just a matter of time, sir.
Before I move on to my question, there is an interesting thing that Professor Vaidyanathan says. He tells bureaucrats every morning when wake up, repeat 10 times, US is no more a superpower, US is no more a superpower, everything will fall into place. And if you see the result, how 370 was totally, a lobby of Pakistan was totally killed, the way Yoga Day was passed, shows that lobbying of India changed totally. So let us not be pessimistic about what is really good about India. Coming to my question about being, first of all, RSS is not part of the government. Please remove that thought totally from your mind. Like any other lobby group, we worked hard and got a government which is supposed to be pro-Hindu, and it is pro-Hindu. Or you won't get, national views on so many bills that have been passed in the last 6 months. But there are certain things, coming to temple itself, temple control law comes under the state jurisdiction. It started from Tamil Nadu and Kerala. Now that has been put up in Maharashtra, everybody is using it and misusing it rather. And we have been lobbying against it. VHP has passed resolutions, has been talking to government, sooner or later it will happen. But to say that whether we are true Hindu or not, whether this BJP is supporting Hindu cause or not, actually is a wrong, a wrong way of looking at things. They are. If it was not in favor of the national issues, you won't find Shaheen Bags propping all over India. Thank you.
Yeah. So you asked about Swatantra Party and other things. I think Swatantra Party was probably an idea that came too soon, and today it would still not be relevant. If you actually look at what's happening in the US, if the Democratic Party wins the next presidential elections, which it probably won't, you will see a socialist in the White House, not a capitalist. So when it comes to India, I would say that we have moved to a post-ideological state where we have to see that capitalism has its strengths and so does socialism. And you cannot have a pure capitalist system anymore, because capitalism is the best system for generating wealth. It is the worst system to distribute it. So you got to have something in between which actually takes care of both. If you are able to do both, generate enough wealth, and then figure out how that wealth is going to go to much more hands, then only capitalism will succeed. These two things need to be married, and we got the right idea of going for a mixed economy, but we ended up with a mixed up economy where neither capitalism nor socialism worked.
So just extending that point, and interestingly, both of us got caught in this controversy, Jaggi ji and I. I wrote an article, an op-ed a while back which Swarajya published about a third alternative which I personally call dharmikism, which is to look at public goods as public goods, share wealth, but do not decry capitalism or profit making. And immediately you should have seen the response from the other side. I mean, he was, 101 galis to him and to me, and, ki Swarajya is something and Anuraag is a plagiarist and this, that, pata nahi kya kya. So, the good news is, I see strength in that. Whenever somebody tries to shout you down, it means you're making a dent in their narrative. So I really hope that Jaggi ji pushes this third alternative. And it's time, China has presented its own alternative. India should as well.
Anand ji had a question here.
Hi, that was a really wonderful and enriching discussion, and some brilliant points made by everyone, especially Ratan. Ratan, I have a question. You very correctly said that contempt of court goes against freedom of speech and expression. I completely agree. I want to test that hypothesis. So can you please, give me a couple of examples where you believe that there is lobbying in the judiciary?
There is a lawyer sitting next to you who would be able to tell you whether there is lobbying. I cannot really, assume or rather say that there is lobbying in judiciary. If there is nothing, I don't know whether it's contempt of lawyers or judiciary. You won't find same set of lawyers dominating the Supreme Court proceedings. The way these eminent lawyers are selected in the Supreme Court, the way collegium works, the way judiciary went against NJAC, tells me that it requires much more better overhauling than what was attempted so far.
And some of the things Supreme Court does are indeed worthy of contempt.
There's one more question from the gentleman here.
My question is to Shaina ma'am. Ma'am, why doesn't BJP tries to build an ecosystem while they are in government? While the rivals are very clear about the ecosystem. Take case of Maharashtra. As soon as MVA government came, they are installing their own person in positions of power.
Shaina ma'am, why?
So, you know what MVA stands for, no?
Yes, ma'am.
What does it stand for?
Maha Vikas Aghadi.
No, it's actually Maha Vinash Aghadi, just to set the narrative correct. But having said that, desperate lust for power seems to be the only agenda. We all know why people in Maharashtra voted for us and who they actually wanted and what they got by default. But having said that, I think Ratanji wants to interject. But
Please finish.
before you do, I will only make one point. We're very clear. Our Prime Minister believes in only one agenda, whether it's ideology, whether it's working with people of this country, nation first, party next, individual last. For certain parties, it's the reverse. It's only individual first, there's nothing beyond. So in that scenario, if you have a desperate lust for power, I think it's in the days to come that you will have a befitting answer by the same public that voted us in.
See, I would leave aside the political part, but what do you want from the government? That the party in the governance is very clear, in that Congress is very clear, whether rightly or wrongly. I'll give you an example, live example. I was a member of Punjabi Sahitya Academy in Maharashtra. Yeah, I'm a Punjabi. And this organization took 1.5 years to just get organized. And the minister never get time for one meeting, finally gave a time for one meeting saying, अगले इलेक्शन के बाद आप बढ़िया बिल्डिंग बना के देंगे, आपको ऑफिस देंगे, अगले इलेक्शन में नहीं आए. And not only that, within a week, there is a program of Sankirtan to celebrate 550 years of Guru Nanak in Governor's house. The government's first job was to cancel that program. It had no politics in it, remember this. It was for Mahan Guru Nanak Dev. They cancelled the Kirtan. Not only that, within a week I got a letter that your academy has been dissolved and we had a term of 3 years. That is the difference between how you look at ecosystem and how you build it. The way, the careless way or in a very casual way these things are treated by BJP government, although I am supposed to be a supporter of BJP, I am, but there are certain things which need to be corrected.
We have completely run out of time, but I'm sure the panelists would be more than happy to entertain any questions, any engagements. Thank you so much, everybody. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you. Thank you.